day 5 or 6 with this horse. I'm not really sure which anymore. I'm going to work him in the round pen because yesterday we had Heather bring him into the round pen at the end of his session to unhalter him, and he did kind of what we predicted. As soon as he got through the gates, he just kind of wanted to trot off and forget he was on the line. So I'd like to do some round pen work with him, which will lead to yielding the hindquarters, do some more approach and retreat petting on him, and that's about it for this morning session. So we'll see just how quick he'll get through that. His first challenge though is going to be leading to get through the gate to go over there with people on both sides of him. Good boy. Good. So kind of the same leading technique that we've been doing with him, where it's just side to side and pulsing on the rope. They're not going to get you. All the way. Good boy. And I think the first thing I want to do is some of that approach and release, because as you can see, we ended up on this side of the pen. We were stopped in the center for a while, and then when I went to go tighten the halter, he was getting a little bit nervous. Good boy. And I just want to make sure while we're working on this lunging, we don't have a too loose halter that's going to be pulling and getting caught on his mouth or anything. Good boy. Good. The other thing that I want to work on when I was haltering him, good, he wanted to move into me. So first order of business is if he's nervous and there's pressure being put on, he has to go the other way. And I also want him to be confident in knowing that I'm always going to give him an outlet. I don't ever want him to feel like super trapped or anything. So if my body is here, he has all of that open space over there to run into. He doesn't need to come here. So we're going to do some work on energy, getting him to understand to move away from it and not through it. Because there's been a couple times, like when we were sorting him after unloading and moving the two horses from pen to pen, he wanted to almost bulldoze over me. So he's got a little bit of a problem when he panics, not really responding to that pressure. Good boy. Very nice. As always, it's important to practice having your rope folded, not coiled around. Good boy. Good. I'll start the lunging without the rope. Without the stick. I'm going to start with just the rope in my body language. See if I can get him to go to the left first. Good. Good. And right now I'm not too worried about speed. He can walk or trot, but I want him to keep the direction. So first I'm going to look at direction, and then we'll start to work more on speed. This is something I'd also love to do with my mare today. She needs a little more direction leading, sending, pushing away from me. Good boy. So now if I lift this rope, I'm going to look for that hind end to move, good, and him to face up. Now that was mainly the shoulder moving that time. I'm not going to be too picky because we haven't done any hindquarter yields. I just like that he changed direction. Now this is his tough side, so keeping him going this way might be more challenging. Good. Good, I like that he's asking the question. I also like here that he's staying in off of that lighter touch. Good. So whenever they kind of resist in their neck like that, and they're a little bit more of the angle where you're behind them, okay, they're trying to use their neck as leverage, and he's doing it in that corner because that's where he eats, that's where his friends are. If you remember his first few sessions were over there, that's his comfort area in this pen. So every time we approach over here, I'm going to take an extra step towards his hip so I can make sure I'm really behind that drive line. Good. But when they do flip like that to try to get the leverage, I want to still give and take with my hand. If I just hold steady pressure, they can push against that, resist. Whereas if I give them something to move off of, it's going to make it easier to get that nose back. Good boy. Good boy. So now while we're over here, I'm going to see if I can bump the nose. Good. I don't mind him drawing in a little bit now rather than yielding the hindquarters because he isn't super personable. He likes to be more distant. He's shy. He doesn't want to be all in your face like the mare, so I don't mind him wanting to get a little closer. Good boy. Good boy. You spooked? Did you get spooked? Good boy. Good. Perfect. Now as I'm working on this off side, I always start in that familiar spot, which is his head. And he likes me to be more in front of him, and Heather kind of figured out yesterday too. He likes to lean into that arm a little bit, which would make sense since he doesn't necessarily move off of pressure very well. Although you did pretty good lunging right then. You did. Could that be a scratchy spot or is that a scary spot? Good boy. So I'm going to slowly start to put my body more and more on that side. You can see that he's blocking with his head right now, so I'm not going to push it too far past this. But I do want him to begin getting comfortable with me over here. The other thing I want to start working on is haltering without that rope around his neck, which is what I did today. I'm slowly taking the pieces away of it. So I didn't do any fishing, I didn't have the stick, and I didn't toss that rope with the ring over his neck to get him to stay. Now he was still in his corner, and on the first time haltering, it scared him a little bit when I tossed the halter over to the other side, and that's where he kind of wanted to run through that pressure and move away from the scary object, that object that was scarier than me, because that's what he was running into. So that's where pressure and energy is super important, because if I make my energy big, he needs to know how to move off of that. But I was talking about haltering and moving away from getting the rope around the neck and starting to take those steps out of it. Good boy. Good boy. Much better. Over here, I want to start working on just directly touching that neck. Good. Moving my body back some. There's a point of discomfort. You could see his body sway there, so I'm going to stay in this point for a moment and then release. Go back to that neck. Good. Can see a little discomfort in his eye. I don't know if you can on the camera from there, but he's a little nervous, so I'll wait for some sign of relaxation. And you'll notice right now I'm not trying to pull that head over to me. My fingers are actually barely touching that rope. So if he goes to move, he's going to have some slack in it. Like he'll be able to move probably about 3 to 5 feet away from me before my hand closes on this rope. Right? Because if he's nervous, I don't want him to feel super restricted. He should be allowed to move his feet a little. Good. Do a little bit of leading work, and I want to see if I can make some more progress on that offside. So we might do a little tossing the whip over, because that's what caught his eye when I was haltering him. Heather did a little of that with him the other day. Good boy. But I'm just curious to see where he's at. Nice. Much better leading, buddy. Good. So first, I talked about this with the red mare. We do desensitizing stationary, and then we'll start to add motion into it. So for him, good boy. Stationary will happen for a few sessions before we start moving. It's all about the energy that you're putting through the tool. Now, if I wanted to change it on him and put more energy through it, this is where we have the problem. Good, where he really doesn't want to respond. There. So it's a little trickier if I'm going to do desensitizing and sensitizing at the same time, but that is the best way to start getting your horse to tune into your energy. Good boy. Good boy. Good. I think it's tricky with Mustangs. A big part of training them is getting them to draw and be with you and trust, but then also you have to teach them pressure, how to move off of it, but not be scared of it. Okay, and it kind of all happens at the same time, because moving off of pressure is, a big part of it is for safety reasons. So when you're working with a wild animal, you want to have those safety measures installed in them, but you also need to be their friend and build trust and make sure they're not thinking you're going to hurt them. So having that balance, I find, is always trickier with the wild ones initially in that gentling process versus working with a domestic. And you can see today I'm really not all that worried about the speed that he's lunging at. Good boy. I just like that he's going out. I also like that when he's coming in, he's really not all that far away from me. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Good. So now on this side, I'm kind of touching mid-neck. I'm going to turn him in a second so you guys can see me working on this off side because I know he likes to block with his head. And he'll be just about done for this session. Trying to see if we almost have an itchy spot. Good boy. Good boy. Good. I always like to end the sessions a little bit quieter, less energy with them. If they're still at the stage of gentling where there's lots of petting going on and that's still part of his training, that's always a good way to end the sessions. Good boy. Good. All right, that's going to end his session this morning.